My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Deadpool and Wolverine. And look, I was not excited for this movie. I thought it looked atrocious. My expectations were rock bottom, and this is easily one of the worst MCU movies, and it's also one of the worst superhero movies I've seen. And before you're like, Gavin, you already made up your mind before you watched it. No, shut up. Look, I made videos about how awful I thought Spider-Man No Way Home looked, and when I finally watched it, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was pretty good. So I can have my mind changed when the movie actually deserves it, but this movie, it's just depressing that it exists the way it does. So let's begin talking about the performances. And Ryan Reynolds keyword, can be a great actor. I love him in Adventureland, in Buried, in The Voices, in The Croods even. But ever since Deadpool, he's just become the same character in every one of his movies, and I'm just tired of his shtick. And this movie just showcases why. It is a very one note performance that brings nothing new to this character. Hugh Jackman, great actor. He's awful in this movie. Like, it's just depressing. It really is. I did not find him to be any good at all. We also got Matthew McFadden, who played Tom in Succession and did an amazing job. And he's given the most generic villain performance. And it's just frustrating. Like, you got a guy who is capable of greatness, and you get him to do this. Like, talk about erased. And then we've got Emma Corrin, who I thought was just horrendous. Her character is like the worst villain in the MCU. Just some abysmal writing. And we also got a lot of cameos, which I won't give away or anything, but what I will say is this. Nobody is given anything to do. You will see plenty of characters you recognize in this movie, but they're just simply empty shells. They just look like characters you once loved while being utterly forgettable in this movie. And I don't know, I just thought the utilization of IP in this movie was it's I've already said this word a few times, but it's just truly depressing. Like, is this what movies are going to be now? Like, I remember in Free Guy, same star and same director as this movie, the scene where Ryan Reynolds gets a lightsaber and he gets Captain America's shield, and I thought that was the cringiest moment ever, and this movie just has a whole lot of moments like that. And this movie also does something I hate, which is you have a couple, Deadpool and Vanessa, and they break up off screen and it's given barely any attention. It's just such a lazy retread and it's just so pointless. It reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in the worst way possible. But Deadpool is really given nothing to do in this movie. He has no real conflict. He has no real arc. It's just Deadpool being Deadpool. And then we've got Wolverine's arc, which is just a lazy retread once again. And the movie even points it out, but just because you point it out doesn't mean you buy into it. It is just such a terrible writing. And the relationship between Deadpool and Wolverine is just it doesn't work. Like, at what point in the movie am I actually supposed to buy that these two characters care about each other? Because I'm looking back, and there's not a key point at all. It just happens because the movie tells us it's supposed to. And look, I know everybody wants to see Wolverine in his comic accurate costume, and like you see it in the trailers, you get it here, but when we eventually get to the mask, it is a complete embarrassment. Like it looks hideous. And then we get to the story of this movie. What story? I don't know. Everything that happens in this movie just kinda happens. It's just pure nonsense. Like, the movie begins, and I'm like, is this really the plot? Like, what? And the movie just never gets any better. It doesn't make any more sense. It's just gibberish. It's just incoherent garbage just so they could get all these cameos in this movie. Nothing means anything, and rules are just made up on the spot. And it's just like by the end of the movie, they backtrack so much, and I'm like, what's the point of anything even happening? Like, if you're not going to have any rules, then fine. And there's also no emotion. This movie tries desperately for it at times, and it just completely falls flat. I will say there are some funny moments. I laughed probably like 5 times. I do like it when they make fun of the MCU, and the end credit scene did get to me. But most of the humor just falls flat. It's just it's just not funny. And on top of that, I thought the action in this movie sucked. Like, it is filled with blood, but it's never gross or effective. It's just there so this movie could be all rated. And the action is just weightless. Like, it just feels so incredibly empty. The movie is also very ugly to look at. Like, visually, I know they shot it on location, but it just looks so flat. And the scale of this movie, despite the big story, it just kind of takes place on like this sandy area and a forest and one city block, and that's it. Like, it just feels so small and cramped, and it just lacks any bit of epicness or scope or just anything, and there's just no real vision behind this movie. I thought Sean Levy, who has made some good movies, I like Night at the Museum, I like Big Fat Lyle, I like Real Steel. I haven't seen it in forever, but I have fond memories of Cheaper by the Dozen. And even I think he did the 2006 Pink Pencil, which once again I haven't seen in a while, but I really liked as a kid. But he does such a terrible job here, and it just seems between this and Free Guy, this is kind of who he is now. And the soundtrack to this movie is dreadful. Like, you've got so many amazing songs, but the actual usage of them just felt so repetitive, and it just felt like it was a joke. Like, there was a scene where that one Avril Lavigne song is playing, and I'm like, oh, is the joke that they're listening to this song? Like, it's just poorly utilized in the movie, with one exception being Like a Prayer by Madonna. The second time we hear it in the movie, it's like a different version of that song, which I really did dig, but the rest of the soundtrack and its usage is just awful. And I'm just tired of the multiverse. Once again, I won't give anything away, but there was one scene where I was just like, really? This is such stupid shit. The ending of this movie completely sucks. Like, once again, there's just no rules to anything. If you're expecting a big, exciting final battle, you don't get it here. This movie is just... it's depressing. Like, I watch it and I'm like, remember the days of like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2? Remember the days with Captain America 2? Remember the days of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame? Like, we are never getting to that level again. And I'm just tired of these superhero movies. There might be an odd exception every now and again, but this movie and its usage of IP is so depressing. The way it brought back Wolverine from his perfect ending in Logan for the same kind of character arc here, but just done terribly, that's depressing. Getting so many talented people involved with this movie and just giving them nothing to do. The story is complete nonsense. It's terribly directed. This movie is everything wrong with Hollywood. It really is. So I'm going to give Deadpool and Wolverine a 1 out of 10. And I feel like that's being generous. My rating for this could go down. But anyways, Deadpool and Wolverine, what did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin out.